Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Small Bear Show. I'm your host, Alex S. Johnson, and my special guest today is the delightful and talented Jocelyn Page Kelly. And Jocelyn Page Kelly is a extremely creative person. Um, is a children's book author. She's the author of astrology books for children. She also has a debilitating condition, which is kidney failure, and she's trying to raise money to help with her health conditions. I understand that you have multiple health conditions. So could you just tell my viewers some of the challenges that you're facing?
When I was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure, it was in March 2023,
Hmm.
and I also had a mini stroke,
Wow.
which I've recovered from. It took about 6 months to
Yeah.
do all the exercises and rehabilitation for that. That was interesting. In the beginning of my rehabilitation, I was only typing 15 words per minute, so I was very frustrated.
Right.
But I slowly made my way back into poetry,
Hmm.
and from there stemmed into playing with children's books. I wrote a book for the creative company about a year ago called Cave Diving, which
Oh,
was
wow.
a nonfiction book, and it was really interesting. Um, I didn't know anything about cave diving before I got into this book, but I had to research it in order to
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and use my executive function skills, which was a challenge.
So let me try to understand. So you had the stroke. When did you have the stroke?
The same time my kidneys.
Okay. So and then you were just talking about having to use your executive function. So that is
Yes,
something that's very interesting to me. So you got the assignment or the you were commissioned to write the book for the creative company after your after
after my
af-
stroke.
after your mini stroke. Okay, this is very interesting. Talking about executive function,
Yeah.
because for me, I have a debilitating neurodegenerative condition, which is completely mysterious, and I've actually had this whole bizarre kind of episode which lasted for nearly 4 years, where I was a patient at Kaiser, and a very kind of abusive neuropsychologist kind of kept trying to pressure me to go into psychiatry. And
Hmm.
working with this, a neuropsychiatrist and a neurologist and a radiologist at Kaiser, they were all complicit in trying to misdiagnosed me deliberately and gaslight me into accepting like that it was just all in my head. And so I had to fight like hell. This and the I just should say very briefly because I want to talk about you. But see, I wound up learning a lot about neurology and a lot about what executive function is. And I discovered that our brains are extraordinary. I mean, you
Yeah.
know this, right? The capacity for the rest of the brain, even like it seems like the that the brain or the mind brain complex is extremely redundant. I mean, it's
Yeah.
based on sort of I mean, you can keep I keep experiencing more and like I have regular stroke-like episodes. And for some reason, I just thank God, I really thank God that there's a capacity to not just recover, but kind of even do better. And then in some ways, I would love to have my old brain back. But all I'm saying is that I've really discovered a lot. And one of the people who inspired me the most, and I'll try to retrieve this book without um, allowing my other books to come crashing on my head, is I have a lot of books up here that I kind of used, books written by friends of mine and people I published that kind of keeps me going. And one of my main mentors and the guy who really inspired me and also gave me my first break is a guy named Tom Sullivan. And you may have heard of him, right? Tom Sullivan.
Yeah,
Um,
it's clear.
he was let's see, what would they say about Tom? Tom Sullivan's author of 8 books, including his best-selling autobiography, If You Could See What I Hear, which was made into a motion picture. A highly successful motivational speaker and consultant, he was recently a guest on Oprah discussing how we can overcome adversity.
Hmm.
Sullivan, special correspondent for Good Morning America, and has been seen in numerous television series and films. And when I was in back in the early 2000, I worked for a boutique secretarial service in Torrance, California, called EDA Secretarial Services. And among our clients were, Betty White, as in the Golden Girls, the Betty White, and her dear friend, close friend, and collaborator, Tom Sullivan. And so my job was to take dictation and turn it into a transcription that would be turned into a manuscript. But sensing that I really was hungry, Tom started asking me about myself. And he would say, I'm a blind guy, so I don't know. He would always say, I never met an ugly person, right? He never, because I can't see, right? So I never literally met an ugly person. I only know what people are like because my senses are extraordinarily acute. And
Yeah.
he and Betty White had this really wonderful relationship with their with this guide dog that they shared named Lady. And actually, here's another thing where maybe you could contribute to a project that I'm doing right now. It's so I'll finish this up. So Tom eventually asked me, so we'd have, people like, Betty White would call in with transcription and I would take their, whatever dictation. And then one day Tom said, you might as well, I'm going to give you a job. I said, I already have a job. I'm a senior secretary, right? And he said, I want you to, I want, no, 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 you don't understand, Alex. I want you to edit my book. I was like, what? But yeah, I'm not, he said, I know you want to, he said, I know you're a writer and you probably want to write for Playboy. I was like, yeah, of course I want to write for Playboy. It says, okay, so I'm going to give you a job, right? And it's yours if you want it. I said, he didn't really give me a choice. And then every time from that day forward, he would say, okay, if I'm writing shit, let me know and just give me, don't BS me. Just tell me, how I need to clean it up. You clean it up for me. You rewrite it, whatever. I did that. He made me responsible for the entire book. And so in the acknowledgments, he writes, most especially to my friend Alex, who labored with me over writing and rewriting with joy and candor when I got off track. And I just thought, Tom Sullivan this is some of the blurbs, right? What makes this book stimulating is the feeling that the author is speaking with you, not at you, etc. Um, Tom Sullivan's passion is contagious. Betty White.
Hmm.
And so this guy he was one of the people who had faith in me. And I've always believed in paying it forward. So I'm one of the projects I'm doing, you may be interested, or you may not have time because you're doing these children's books for that publisher. But I'm doing something called a collective paw. And a collective paw. It's so my one of my closest friends is the poet and actress and musician. She's recognized around the world, and she's her fans include Henry Rollins and Exene Cervenka and Jackson Brown, who's also a collaborator with her. Her name is Ellen Mabey, and she wrote a poem called "A Whiff of Wonder." whiff of wonder, and it has the line "a collective paw" in it. And I and my partner Aaliyah Celeste Williams, we're listening. We're just listening to an Ellen Maybe video, and it's both struck us as something really wonderful, So I decided to turn it into the imprint name of my um, of my publishing imprint, Nocturnicorn Books, A Collective Paw. And now we publish everything has a paw on it. For example, my new um, dark satire collection, The Doom Hippies, Volume 3, has, the Collective Paw logo,
Oh
right?
yes, I've seen that. Yes.
Right, which was designed by Adrian Baldwin, who does Phantasmagoria magazine in the UK. And the concept is pretty simple for a collective paw is that it's an animal rights, charity. And we really want to do something extra special, not just another charity anthology, but the whole spirit is sort of like of creating a community of like-minded artists, musicians, whoever, we have a number of very, very acclaimed writers, including like Poppy Z. Bright, Caitlin R. Kiernan, John Shirley, who wrote The Crow, David J. Haskins, who wrote the song Bela Lugosi's Dead, right? I mean, these are literally some of our contributors. And what we're trying to do is create an arts community where everybody can feel like, it's so cold out there, as you know, and a lot of people will just be, as soon as they hear that there's anything wrong with you, it's sort of like, you know, avoiding the traffic accident or something. You drive around it, or
Yeah.
you see a homeless person, you're like, shit. Okay, so sucks to be you, but you kind of almost I think it's almost a primal like a like a like a re instinctive reaction, like somehow at a subconscious level we don't want to be contagious, like we think it's contagious somehow, that bad luck is contagious. And
Yeah.
my philosophy is if we turn it around and recognize, okay, that same instinct of identification, we could say, hey, that's me, but I'm not going to be able to avoid illness and death, right? So it's going to come wherever. I, and because I was raised in with a Hinduism background, to the idea that everybody is God, and so collective paw is more than a charity, enterprise or project. It's a kind of a philosophy.
Mm.
So that's why I reached out to you and I said, "Hey, Jocelyn, how can I help?" Because, I think that maybe you might write us something for a Collective Paw, the anthology series, and we could work with you on whatever projects that you are interested in.
Oh, well, that would be great. Yeah. I've actually written a book for GoFundMe fundraisers, and my experience is giving
Yeah,
advice and showing the process of what it's like to go through fundraising. Because there's always the big success stories,
yeah,
and that's not the reality. I mean,
right,
I've been a success. I've struggled,
right.
uh, and I'm still struggling.
Yeah.
Um,
So tell me more about that book.
um, it's um about 100,000 words.
That is a big book.
It's pretty good size.
Yeah.
But it's a fast read. I just had a really good friend of mine, an artist, read it and gave me really good feedback, and
Wow.
I was really shocked and
Yeah.
happy to get
Yeah.
it back to review. And from my old best friend that hadn't, we've reconnected from this campaign, and she's been very generous. My
Mhm.
friend Alexis.
Yeah.
She actually was going to donate her kidney to me, but it
Wow,
turns
that is generous.
well, she has kidney problems.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah,
no. That's horrible.
so I know. Just yeah, turns out she has hyperkalemia, which is high calcium. I think she's got high calcium,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so she's got to take care of that. and hope she doesn't have kidney stones because she
Yeah.
might have kidney stones. Uh, but yeah, the book it's getting good reviews from people.
How can is it like through Amazon or how can people get a hold of it?
I'm still in the process of getting it reviewed, and
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
I'm going to edit it and then put it on online and
Best of luck with that. Yeah.
make it
And
published.
that's it. You did send it to me, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so I will okay, I shouldn't promise anything that I can't fulfill, but I'll give I'll give you a blurb. I will give you a blurb and you can put it on the cover if you like. You know,
Okay.
and we have a lot of clout, right? So it would be a good blurb. Yeah, so it is about fundraising, GoFundMe, and how some of the what are some of the common kind of you know mis
Scams.
well, okay, let's talk about scams. Let's talk about
Oh,
scams.
gosh, scams.
Yeah.
Ever since I started the GoFundMe campaign,
Yeah.
I've been bombarded by scam artists.
Uh-huh.
They approached me on Facebook, on Tumblr, on LinkedIn, any platform I'm on,
Yeah,
different ways, and Twitter. They're all over Twitter. And they pretend to be marketers or they know marketers and
right.
they recommend their marketing friend. You've got to check out so and so on Fiverr. He's the best person
Yeah,
ever.
right.
Yeah. And what these people will do will take your money and
Uh-huh.
then give you stuff or give you shitty materials.
Right, yeah.
So, best to stay away
Right.
completely.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, they're annoying because anytime I post an update on my GoFundMe,
Right.
they bombard my
Wow.
post with scams of WhatsApp. Hey, you got to go to WhatsApp and talk to this
Yeah.
person.
Oh my God. Hey, speaking of WhatsApp, so somebody either reported my account or it's just some like random algorithm thing, or it's just Facebook being Facebook.
It could be an AI bot.
I just, I just got this message earlier today where it was like your account has been permanently suspended unless you do whatever. And it's sort of like some mafia shit, right? It's sort of like we have your dog, you know, like and it means you have to sign up for their little BS, which gives, you know, them more information about you under
Yeah.
the guise of it being for your safety and protection. Yeah, sure it is. You know, you wouldn't want something to happen to your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so our friend who's the animal rights person, I mean, we all love animals, but who's really it's a cause for her. Her name is Nicole H. And she is in fact the daughter of Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue. And she's incredible. I mean, she's like she's a filmmaker, she's a comics writer, she's written for like IDW. She is she's an actress and she's a poet and she's written a lot of her dark fiction is incredibly dark and it's incredibly chilling and she's a really sweet, really sweet person. And so she messaged me about a couple of months ago. I think it was a couple of months ago, and she said, "Hey, Alex, um, I want to contribute to a collective paw." And I was like, "Well, that's a Nicole, that's an imprint." And she says, "Oh, okay. So I want to whatever do." And I said, "Okay, so but it could be an anthology." And one thing led to another. And I started and I said, "Hey, you know what, Nicole? I'll do it because I'm a sucker for, especially charitable causes. Want to help, especially with animals." And so it said, "Okay, so what is the cause?" And she said, "Stray cats." Because she works with the stray cats rescue in LA, right? And she very much I think she kind of, maybe a little bit of identification because she grew up in the foster care system in Colorado. And, suddenly like yeah, I mean you can see you don't need to be a, Freudian analyst to see that there was some kind of identification with those, cats, as well as cats are interesting because they're extremely independent, but they're so interdependent with us too. Like they act like they don't need us at all, but then they'll come, they'll sleep on your face. You're like, hey, I got a cat sleeping on my face. Kind of hard to breathe in here, and they will like treat you like they're thrown. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I would love to have anything from you. Like it doesn't even necessarily have to be about animals. It could be just um, within the spirit of what the phrase "a collective paw" means to you.
Okay, I can I can come up with something.
Excellent, excellent. So tell me more about how did you get started with, okay, astrology is something I don't know nothing about. My dad knows a lot about it. How did you get started with astrology? Yeah.
I was always interested in astrology as a kid. We used to have a um an astrology like book that I would look through.
Right?
I read, so that was inspired me to write to kids.
Yeah.
Um, and as I grew up, I would get other books, would read them, and I'd read horoscopes all the time. Wouldn't tell anybody, because I was
Yeah.
very cautious about it. My dad is an atheist and he doesn't believe in
Yeah.
anything
Right.
religious.
Yeah.
Uh, I kind of kept that away from him. And then I went to go work for a psychic network
Oh, neat.
about 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have some people that are into astrology that are psychic. Not all psychics are astrologers.
Right.
Right. And I wrote a lot of the material on their website for Meet Your Psychic.
Oh,
Um,
wow. So that's the psychic network, right? That's really, really kind of famous.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you get a gig like that?
I just lucked out. The owners here had
Here is where.
Vegas.
Oh, Vegas. Okay. Yeah.
Uh, um, I interviewed and they loved me and they hired me.
Congratulations. That's
And
great.
I worked for them for 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And
Yeah.
um, they sold out to another guy, and he was the one who let me go when I had the
Wow.
stroke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I had the stroke, he's like, okay, bye.
That can happen. Like you're going along and people really let you know who they actually are when you get into, you know, you get into trouble. It's very interesting how that works. So, I'm kind of like psychic too. I mean, I do have some psychic ability, and I think that we're always kind of, I think that other forms of consciousness are always available to us, but we sort of ignore it like we ignore, warning signs about people. Like, we get a, funny feeling that somebody might not be on the level. And
Yeah.
then my sixth sense about people is so strong that gets me into a lot of trouble because I will start to like if I immediately pick up on people's vibes. And if somebody is a fake, I know it right away. And then I betray my knowledge of that. And then they pick up on the fact that I'm onto them, and then they will start working against me, and pretty soon there's a whole social media campaign against me, and I'm being canceled, and there are death threats and murder threats and some BS like that. And
Yikes.
so it happens when you're a sensitive. And so you write for children, and how did you get into that? What's your affinity with children?
It just happened.
Yeah.
I wasn't really looking for it, but I guess I've always really written simply.
Yeah.
Like one of my best short stories was called Fortunately, and it was about this awkward romance between these two who worked in an office,
Hmm.
and he would use origamis
Aw,
to
aw,
yeah to woo
so
his,
cute.
and he would make decisions based on fortune cookies.
Aw.
Yeah, so it was just an interesting, but it was written very simply, like
Mhm.
a fifth grade
Yeah,
reading.
yeah,
So I think it's just kind of natural that I've kind of gone into
yeah.
doing children's books, and I do coloring books too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. You do you do like my partner, Aaliyah Celeste Williams, aka Pickles. She loves to do like adult coloring books. So
Oh,
it's like something that she would be into.
oh, cool.
So
Okay.
I would love for you two to become Facebook friends because she's extremely wary of people and if I can vouch for somebody, she'll say okay, but she hates being on social media at all.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's very interesting, and having to fundraise, I had to be present and on social media,
Right,
something that I hate to do. So I'm very public and I'm very honest, and I think that that actually helps me.
right.
Um, and it has helped me just personally, just as a
Yeah,
person, really forthcoming. Because when I first had the stroke, I just wanted to hide.
yeah.
I I didn't want to tell anyone
Me
about it.
too. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah,
In fact,
and it's
I
kind of
disappeared
bury away, you know.
five I disappeared for 5 years. In fact, well, part of it was that the fact that I literally could not speak
Mm,
and I couldn't move and my when I tried to like I have something called apraxia, which is
mm,
like like it's there's two forms of it. There's like you know congenital dyspraxia and apraxia, which is related to dyspraxia as well. And it's also acquired apraxia. So when you have, neurological, impairment or, whatever distress, then you can, it, for instance, it kind of impacts your parietal lobes and in your some of your executive functions. We were talking about executive functions earlier.
yeah,
And so I had to figure out a way to override my own brain, like hack my own brain and figure out, okay, so the neural architecture that is designed to be your command and control center, you don't have to think about it. I wound up having to think about how does movement work and how does speech work,
yeah,
and and even kind of, you know, like it's almost like I don't know if this is an analogy that's going to make sense, but it's sort of learning how to use sign language or how to mime or something, right? Like first you have to represent to people the problems, and I discovered to my horror that there was nobody who could help me. There was absolutely nobody. In fact, the neurologist kind of at Kaiser really they were only interested in misdiagnosing me so that for a profit so they could, feed me into the psychiatry um, wood chipper. So
yeah,
I had so interestingly enough, through my research and my exposure of this really bad actor, the neuropsychologist who deliberately misdiagnosed me for profit, I got in touch with several people, including a person named Lyric Rivera, also known as to their thousands of fans worldwide as Neurodivergent Rebel, right? Neurodivergent Rebel is a huge is a as a public figure, right?
mm,
And then Lyric is a wonderful, wonderful person. And so they helped me with my exposing this horrible person, this neuropsychologist who has actually acquired her PhD in psychology through fraudulent means by by abusing autistic children and doing experiments that were conducted, with funding from the NIH, and she would just like use these funds to basically torture autistic children. It's like, whoa, whoa. So Lyric Rivera, neurodivergent rebel, like I sent them my article and said, how can I improve on this? They said, um, it's perfect and fantastic. And they started recommending my Substack to their thousands of followers. Every day I get a new follower and said, it's neurodivergent rebel sent me. So in a really, really weird way, I actually benefited from something that I never thought was. I thought I was never going to write again. I was never going to publish again, never going to put out any books. I put out more books this year than I ever put on my 30-year career.
Mm.
And
Wow.
um, wow, right? And so what, let's see. So tell me about some of the challenges, like I know it must be incredibly difficult to work yourself up to speed from being somebody who's vibrant, active, creative person to somebody who has had a stroke event, and then losing executive function, and all at the same time you still wanted to create. So how did you manage to like overcome all these obstacles?
I'm resilient. I don't give up, and
Yeah.
I have a good attitude. In fact, there
Yeah,
was someone who sent me a message the other day, and they were like, questioning why am I
right,
fundraising?
right.
And one of the things I said is like, my life isn't that bad,
Yeah, yeah.
even though it sounds terrible, because they're like, you've made me depressed, and I'm like, really? Because of my life? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I didn't mean to do that.
I'm sorry I bummed you out, right?
Yeah. I didn't mean to do that, but yeah, and it just made me think about my personality. I have a good personality. I'm just a hopeful person and
Yeah,
just like to bring light into the world
yeah,
and share that with people. And I have hope for better
yeah,
days. So I know there's going to be some tough times, and trust me, I'm going through it right now, but I'm,
yeah.
you know, I'm in a good mood.
It,
It's
it,
weird.
it's really
I get tired.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's really extraordinary because there was just, your vibe was so impressive to me. I mean, just like hadn't even spoken with you, but I just saw your posts and I was like, who is this person who seems to be smiling and yet they're saying some very distressing things about themselves? And I was like, well, you know what is attractive? A smiling person because it
Yeah.
makes you feel happy, And it's like, well, maybe it's like you're cool branding, having kidney failure. I mean, it's weird. You know what I mean? It's like we live in a completely new era, I think, where there's because because of the current political crisis, it's
Yeah.
like that in a way it's very bad, but in another way, because the current regime is basically um, is an outlaw regime. Therefore, been a huge surge of defiance against it, and maybe a rediscovery of what makes us, Americans. Like the true spirit of America. I think the United States is helping each other, being looking out for each other.
There's some people that don't believe that.
I know, but
You know,
I don't have
interesting.
I don't have
You know,
room for those people. Yeah.
I've run across a couple of those, the skeptics. I get them on
Yeah. So
me.
what do the skeptics say?
Oh, they get very critical of
Okay.
the fact that why would you ask a stranger for money? I'm like, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? You know?
You're desperate. I mean, you need to ask.
And then they're no longer a stranger, right? That
Right.
they might become your best friend.
Yeah. or they might become a friend. I've made friends on
Right.
this, like you. I've
Exactly.
met you through
Right.
this
Yeah. And I'm so
campaign.
happy we connected. I mean, it's just like I can always use more actual friends.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like just say, oh my gosh, yes, like, renal failure that I can't be friends with somebody like that. Like, who am I to talk, right? And it just seems like a lot of my a lot of my friends and contributors. I mean, which is really interesting that, and I started to think about this more recently, that a lot of my longtime friends, and these are huge name authors. They're mostly horror authors and mostly like weird fiction or dark fantasy or, you know, just straight out transgressive horror, People like Billy Martin, aka Poppy Z. Bright, is disabled. Has a spine condition, basically their spine is crumbling. And it can be very distressing. I mean, a lot of us suffer from mental issues, like Caitlin R. Kiernan, who's like won the World Fantasy Award 2 times, won the Bram Stoker Award 2 times, was a finalist for the Shirley Jackson and the Nebula Award, and is a a on top of that is a vertebrate paleontologist, that also suffers from depression, and people who have different challenges, such as autism, you know, like most of my friends have are autistic, and I'm kind of on the spectrum, and
I am too.
yes, right, and they're great, like Ellen Mabey or Emily Frank, or there also happen to be some of the nicest, most generous, kind, beautiful human beings, and that really, and so we've created this a wonderful little community of people, um, of who are, you know, as much as it's easy to fall into the trap of saying, "Oh my gosh, we're in a dystopian tailspin, and we could spend the rest of our lives doom scrolling." So I like to have, for the doom scrollers out there, I like to have, I will post GIFs like, positive vibes, or dancing cat or Bjork and cat dancing, because I'm a huge fan of Bjork, right? Bjork rules. And neurodivergent people are the future of humanity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, for all the challenges we have, like we're brighter than most. We're more honest. I guess the only drawback is that we're maybe a little too awesome, and then people are jealous of us. But aside from that, that's not a hardship.
Alex, I gotta go because
Yeah.
I'm
So
busy.
it's been wonderful to have you as a guest. You're welcome back anytime, and I'm going to put this up, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.